Um, Thank you. Training is critical to understand how the system works, and the recorded training and training guide will be available on the ISSO website. So please use this tool as a reference for future needs. We have learned over the years what is needed by academic departments or academic communities. Therefore, we are trying to do our best to improve the process to enhance it for everybody's benefit. The process similar to the current software, but of course with some changes. So before you start the visa sponsorship, or before even you start to uh, communicate with us about visa sponsorship, we strongly recommend you to obtain a copy of the visiting scholar passport and resume or CV. The reason for that is you need to make sure that the name of the visiting scholar in the system that include banner or our software matches what's in the passport. And you will need the name as to request the banner ID and Niner Net credentials. For the new software, the host faculty member does not need to have access to the software, but his or her role will be explained later in this presentation. Some background and context. What's a J-1 scholar? United States has visas from A as in Apple to V as in Vector, and each visa has its own rule and regulation. The J-1 is a visa designed specifically to allow visiting scholars to come to this country to conduct research or teach. So it is simply someone who is not a US citizen or green card holder, uh, invited by UNC Charlotte faculty member for short term to do research or teach. What is the J-1 visa program? It is a program administered by the Department of State that reviews and processes visa applications at US embassies around the world for individuals who meet certain criteria. And what is the DS 2019 form? It is actually the document that we issue after your department decided to accept someone. So it's the document issued by the hosting institution. In this case, it's UNC Charlotte, that collects the information required by the Department of State and is given to the visiting scholar outside of the US to apply for the visa. This document, this is the document the ISSO will create upon your request. Now, what is the ISSO portal? Our institution has almost 2,000 international students and visiting scholars. And according to the immigration regulation, we have to report a lot of information on them to the Department of Homeland Security. And we have to do that with a very restricted time frame. For example, the first month of every semester, we have to report on a lot of information that include change in major, change in address, class registration, for visiting scholars, change of job, home address, and many more information. So we cannot do that manually. And that opens the door for human error. Therefore, we must have a software to help us do that. So Synapses is the software that we have purchased, and it is a comprehensive international case management software system that manages international students and scholars information for immigration compliance purposes. Synapses is a product of Indiana University, and it was created by the International Office IT team over there, and it's been successful for the past maybe 20 years in the market. It's used by more than 115 higher education institutions, including some federal agents like the Department of Health. For UNC Charlotte purposes, we are calling the system the ISSO portal to make the name sounds easier and familiar with our students and visiting scholars. How the system works, it's called batching system, portal, software. It sits on top of Banner to capture any change in Banner and then send it to SEVIS. And SEVIS is the database that belongs to the Department of Homeland Security. That's where all universities across the country will have accounts in SEVIS. But we, as a UNC Charlotte staff, we can only view our students and visiting scholar account, but we cannot view the accounts for NC State or Chapel Hill. Each school is kind of separate account in the system. So the batch processing refers to the use of a software to identify, capture changes from banner, and then push the changes to SEVIS for reporting compliance responsibilities. The implementation of the ISSO portal. As we've said earlier that we already purchased the software, we are in the process of implementing the software. So hopefully we have a launch date on December 10th. So between November 18th and December 10th, the ISSO will be transitioning from Teradata, or known as TDS, which is the current software, to Synapses. The J-1 Scholar training for departmental administrator is being recorded and will be posted at the isso.charlotte.edu or our website. H1 training for department administrator will be announced in January, because the software, as we've said earlier, that handles students, scholars, and H1B. Now we're gonna be moving to the training guide, and Dylan is gonna help us guide us through this, which kind of show you kind of samples of screenshots on how the new software is gonna look alike.
Thank you, Tarek. Welcome, everyone. We're going to be going through this training guide together today. This will be posted on our website. And I believe Denise maybe sent a PDF version to everyone yesterday if you'd like to follow along on your own. Tarek, can I ask you real quick, is this view okay, or should I maybe make it a little, or I'll do full screen here. Does that work a little bit better for everyone? Everyone can see?
It looks good to me, yes.
All right.
If you
So
want
let's
to make
go
it a
ahead.
little bit bigger,
Let's
percentage-wise,
Yeah, let's see if I can do this here.
maybe 150 or something.
There we go. Maybe that's a little bit better
Yeah.
for everyone to see. Okay. So as business officers or business service coordinators, most of you attending this presentation already have access to the new ISSO portal. However, if your department decides to allow others in similar positions to gain access and go through this training will show you how to submit a request for another staff member and to gain access to the ISSO portal on behalf of your department. And we're going to talk about, if you need to get that access, you're going to log in with your NinerNet credentials, complete the information in request account, and click submit. So you can see that here, and you can request that as the department. Please note the decision has been made to limit departmental access to those in your types of role, business officer type positions. Faculty members will have a different role to play, and we'll explain that shortly. So again, when you're first requesting that account, it's going to look like this. You enter your network ID, full name, etc. Pretty simple stuff. But we do need to have that in order to grant you or your department access to that. All right. And then we are going to, let's just jump right into how we create or look up a scholar record once you have access to the portal. So here we go. Depending on whether you're inviting a new J-1 scholar or extending a current scholar on behalf of your department, you will need to know how to create a new record or look up a pre-existing one. This section provides instructions on both of those things. For initial requests, this includes scholars outside of the US, as well as those who may be transferring from another institution to UNC Charlotte. For either case, you will need to create a new record. However, before we do this, we need to cover a very important change from what you may be used to. So that change is that in the new ISSO portal, you must, before you can submit a sponsorship request, you will first need to obtain a banner ID and NinerNet credentials on behalf of your visiting scholar. This is very important. The reasons for this are improved data, institutional data integrity, compliance, and for reporting purposes. For scholars who will receive university funding, you should already be familiar with this process. However, for scholars who will have their own funding and not receive university funding, you'll need to follow these instructions in the training guide, which support a pre-existing process within academic affairs, HR procedures handbook called unpaid adjunct. Essentially, you will need to collect a few biographical pieces of information, obtain the chair and dean's signatures on a letter, and submit your request for a banner ID and NinerNet credentials to Academic Affairs Human Resources. Okay. Please, to back up, please allow a few business days for this request to get the NinerNet credentials and banner ID, and then begin your J-1 sponsorship request. So it can take a few business days for that information to be created. You'll also need to email provide the scholars banner ID and credentials to them via email. Please note, you will no longer need to use the guest account process. All right, so I'm going to pass it over to Tarek to cover how we actually create that new scholar record.
Thank you, Dylan. In this demonstration, I'm sorry, we will be showing you the department administrator, how to submit a new J-1 scholar request to the ISSO. We will also share what the process is like for other stakeholders to aid your general understanding. The goal of this training is not to make you an expert in every possible scenario that could arise. Instead, by the end of this training, you will have a basic understanding of the process and should feel comfortable starting a J-1 Scholar DS 2019 initial request in the ISSO portal. You will also know where to seek further help when more complex situations arise. To start this request, you will need to log in to the ISSO portal and go to Departmental Services, as shown here in the red box. To add a new scholar, you can see under the tasks menu that there is an option to start the DS 2019 request right away. Let's not do that yet. Instead, we have to click Add New Person in the red box. We have to add the prospective J-1 information info into the system before we can actually start the DS 2019 request, as shown on your screen. Complete the e-form. Here, you will add the prospective J-1 basic information. Before you begin, it is important that the name matches the scholar passport. So please obtain the passport prior to completing this e-form. Because as you know, some people with their email communications, they might use their name on the email signature completely different from the passport. So we need to match the passport because at the end of the day, we are dealing with immigration documents. Also, as previously mentioned, the 800 number and network ID or Niner credentials are required before you get to this step. Also, if the scholar you are inviting has their own funding, remember to follow the Academic Affairs HR procedure for requesting a banner record using the unpaid adjunct category first. You can refer back to that section earlier in the training guide and then return to this process once the ID number and NinerNet credentials have been created for you. With that done, next you will click the first link below, which says J-1 Scholar DS 2019 Initial Request. And from that point, Dylan will explain how to look up the Scholar record in the ISSO portal.
All right, thanks, Tarek. So at this point, we've entered the scholar's initial information into the system, and we're going to click J1 Scholar DS 2019 Initial Request, which you can see on the screen here. It's going to be the first application that you can work on. But if you before proceeding, let's take a moment to review that. This may be the first time some of you have done a J1 extension or J1 requesting a J1. But before you begin the extension process, you need to have the updated host department letter with new dates and the new contract if it's a paid position. So again, if this is going to be an extension request, you need to have those things first. The template invitation letter is always available on our website under resources for departments. But again, to begin, we're going to go to departmental services along the left-hand side of the screen here in the red box. And then it's going to take us to this next page. And we're going to go to tasks. And then we're going to click on J1 Scholar DS 2019 extension shown in the red box here. And then after that, we're going to enter the ID number and date of birth of the scholar and click Find Record. Okay, so again, this is related to an extension. We're going to talk about the new initial request in a little bit, but for this extension, putting in their ID, finding that person. Then we're going to enter the ID number and, sorry, I already covered that. Sorry. Then click Department Initiate Extension Request. The name of the scholar should appear at the top of the page, and you're going to complete the information requested, including the new dates, any changes or updates in funding, and upload the department's updated letter using the template provided on the ISSO website. So you can see in these screenshots here, we're completing this. For this extension. Another thing we want to talk about is when you are going through either an extension or a new J1 request, we want to talk about some navigation tips for these applications, which we call e-forms. First, do not use the browser back button when you're working on these things, especially for an extension or a new request. Do not use cancel or edit buttons after you've submitted an extension request or an initial request. And do not use the new button that you're going to see if your application has already been approved. Okay, so these things with our new software, it can just cause some issues if you're using these, if you're doing these things that we're telling you not to at this point. And again, all these tips will be in our user guide. So if you want to review that, feel free to do that. But yeah, if you use new, for example, here, it's going to potentially cause some problems here. But let's talk about moving to an initial request. Oh, sorry. As a reminder, you'll need to have the following information before you can submit any request to the ISSO. And again, it's a copy of the visiting scholar's passport and CV, a solid understanding of the position the scholar will have in your department. And then you'll need to have information about the position offered, including whether it's research, teaching, or both, the title and description of the position, where funding is coming from, the proposed start and end dates. When you do think about those proposed start and end dates, you want to give us at least 3 months in advance, or give the scholar at least 3 months in advance, since the visa process can take quite some time. The primary site of activity, that is where the scholar will be working, which is usually 9201 University City Boulevard. And you'll also upload a copy of the scholar's passport or CV. Let's see here. Tarek, did I skip ahead of something, or are we
No,
on
no,
target?
you're doing fine.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. So when you are initiating this request, you're going to select your department name from the drop-down menu and type your name, title, and email as the host department contact, title and email address of the host faculty member and who is inviting the scholar, and then you're going to answer these questions here on this screen and upload the various documents that are asked for. So I just talked about scholar passport, scholar CV, resume, and you can see here it does ask for that. And I'm going to turn it back over to Tart.
Thank you. And now comes the role of the ISSO to review and approve. After you submit your request, what happens next? Think of the application as a train moving from one stop to the next, collecting information from various stakeholders along the way. Once all the information has been collected at each stop, the request will come back to you and you will do the department final submit to the ISSO. First step, the ISSO wants to make sure that the prospective visitor is eligible to be a J-1 visiting scholar. So the ISSO will do an initial review once you submit the department initiate request e-form. After submission, you will see that your form is pending office approval and your final submit button is temporarily locked, as you can see on your screen. After initial ISSO approval, the department administrator and the host faculty member will receive an email with instructions for the next steps. The host faculty member will be responsible for the English language proficiency assessment form and will receive specific instructions. The department admin will collect a few other pieces and then submit the final department's request after the scholar and the host faculty do the following parts. Complete and submit your export control form directly to the export control office following the steps provided in the training guide. Prepare the host department's invitation letter using the ISSO template provided in the email and on our website. And then in the position, if the position requires a contract from academic affairs, this will also be required uploaded. So you may need to work on obtaining the contract. And you can see here from the screens how that is gonna move forward. Now, when it comes to export control and Scholar e-forms, the department admin will go to the export control forms and checklist website, see link in the training guide on page 13, and obtain the appropriate form for your J-1 scholar. A sample of the form can be found in the training guide. Completing this form and submitting it directly to the export control office at the email address listed on their website, which is exportcontrol@charlotte.edu, will allow their office to determine whether an export control is needed for your scholar or not. This form will require a signature from the supervisor and the department chair, and the supervisor, of course, is the host faculty member. The sooner you can get this submitted, and the sooner the scholar can complete his or her information in the portal, the sooner the export control office can do its review and approval, and hopefully that will happen within 2-3 weeks time frame. Now, the turn on the scholar, and Dylan is gonna explain that.
Great. Yeah. So we just kind of scrolled through what the export control forms look like there. Again, this is in the user guide. And if you've done this before, it should look familiar. But you can always refer to it in that guide. All right. So at this point, we're going to talk about what the scholar, prospective scholar, is doing to complete actions on their end. Even though you're not going to be completing these steps yourself, again, this is for the prospective scholar. We want to show you what that experience looks like. So at this point, the system will invite the scholar to log into the portal using their 9erNet credentials. And again, that's why it's so important for them to have those credentials before you submit the request. Obviously, they need to have that. The scholar will receive an email with login instructions, as you can see here. So it's pretty, in the red box, they're just going to be clicking on that link and logging in. Hopefully this cuts down some of the difficulty that students were, or the scholars were sometimes having with logging in with our previous system. And then when the scholar, clicks on that link, here's what they're going to see. It's going to say J-1 Scholar DS 2019 initial request. So they're actually going to be able to see parts of that as well. They're going to click on that and submit each of the required e-forms that follow, and we'll show you kind of what that looks like. So they're going to submit personal information. They're going to submit dependent information if that applies. They're going to submit their funding information, immigration status. So we have some background information about their immigration previous visits to the United States. And then they're going to click the final submit button. So that is, once they click that final submit button, once these other sections have been completed, they're going to receive an email that says, "Hey, prospective scholar, thank you for doing all of this. We've received your part of the application. Please give the ISSO some time to process this." And at that point, they're finished with that, which is nice. They're kind of done with that part. Tark, you're going to show them the host faculty side.
Yes, now comes the role of the host faculty in this procedure.
No. Are you suffering there? Are you in
Now it is the host faculty member's turn to enter the process. Here is what it will look like for them. First, they will receive an email. I'm sorry, something got. First, they will receive an email with a link that will take them directly to the portal to review the scholar's information. This is a change from our current/previous system, in that the faculty will not actually log into the portal and therefore will not require special access as it is the case with the current system. As you can see in the training guide, all login information will automatically be populated for them, as shown on your screen. Once they click the link in the email, they will be able to review all information submitted by the department administrator and the scholar, which will be pre-populated for them. In addition, the faculty member must determine whether or not the scholar has the necessary English language skills to perform their job duties and navigate daily functions. The host faculty will have access to any credentials uploaded by the scholar, such as test scores or a diploma issued by an institution in an English-speaking country. The faculty member could also conduct a pre-auth portal interview with the scholar if they are unsure of the English language proficiency or if the scholar has no relevant credentials. You can refer to the screenshots on page number 17 and 19 of the training guide. Now, Dylan is going to talk about the department administrator e-form, which is kind of wrapping up the steps.
Right. So now that the host faculty member has submitted their part of it, 1 hour after the host faculty member submits their part of the process, the application will return to you, the host department administrator. Specifically, you will receive an email inviting you to log back into the portal to do what we call the departmental final submit. Okay, so the screenshots on pages 20 through 21 of the training guide will show you how to navigate back to your scholar's record in the portal, and you're going to basically click on My Cases, My Current Cases, as you can see here in the red box, and then you're going to select the scholar's name. So we have a test case here, Charlie Brown. If this were a real person, you would obviously locate their name, and then you're going to click on that DS 2019 request for that. Once you've done that, you're going to see a button that says Departmental Final Submit, and as you can see in the red box here. So at this point, you're going to upload the department's invitation letter and contract if it's applicable to the position, and confirm that you have already submitted the export control form to export control. And once you do these things, it is going to allow you to, oh, here you go. You can see where it's going to ask you to upload the invitation letter, job offer letter, maybe both. And then you're just going to let us know that you've already submitted that export control form. Once you click this final submit button down here at the bottom, that is going to complete that part of the process, and it'll be on its way to the ISSO for final review. Passing it back to Tarek.
Thank you. The train now at its 5th and final stop, the Export Control Office. In this screenshot, you will see that the request has been routed to a third party, which is the export control, that will do the final submit to the ISSO. Just for your information, these screenshots show the email that is sent to export control, inviting them to review all of the documents provided throughout the process. This review will help export control to complete their evaluation process. And you can see that here on the screenshots shown in the presentation. Once the Export Control Office has performed the review of the scholar's documents, which can take up to 2-3 weeks, you will receive an email informing you of the export control outcome, whether a license is needed or not. If no export license is required, the department's complete request form will be routed to the ISSO for a full review. Please allow 5 to 10 business days for DSO 2019 processing. The ISSO will reach out for clarification or information if needed. Now, Dylan is going to take us to the really final step and the wraps up of the training.
I know there's a lot of different steps. We wanted to show you guys some things that you won't normally see, just so you're aware of them happening. But now, once the final submit has been completed, you're on your end, you'll see that the request is pending office approval. That means our office is reviewing it. It's in our queue for review. And then you want to make sure that you give our office at least 5 to 10 business days to review that and issue the DS 2019 if the scholar qualifies for that. Or you might receive an email from us that requests some clarification if something is a little bit out of the ordinary. Once the ISSO issues the J-1 DS 2019 document, you'll receive the department administrator, the host faculty member, and the scholar. All 3 parties will receive an email with instructions on how to download and print the DS 2019, which they will need for the visa interview and ultimately entry into the United States. So you can kind of see what that looks like here. It says, this is our test record, but your DS 2019 has been issued. Here's how you access it, and then further instructions about the visa process. And that concludes our overview of how to do a J-1 Scholar sponsorship request. We've covered how to access an extension request and also do a new request. We looked at what happens on the scholar side. We looked at what happens on the host faculty member side, on your side as a department administrator, and then also what the export control officer at UNC Charlotte is going to see on their end. So as you can see, it takes quite a few people to make this happen. But now at this point, you should know how to submit that scholar request, and hopefully you have a basic understanding of what will be required of you and other stakeholders in the process. But what happens if something especially difficult arises, something extremely complex, or you just need additional help? You can always refer to this to the portal training guide that we're going through here today. We are going to make that available 24/7 on our webpage. You can also rewatch this recording, which we will make available. And then finally, as always, if you have questions that are not covered in either of these resources, or you encounter some kind of technical issue, obviously this is a new system. Tarek, Denise, and I, and the rest of the staff are starting to, hopefully, fully learn this system. But if something comes up, please let us know. We're very happy to investigate it or answer the question directly. So I'm going to stop recording here.